okay. First of all, you seen the Jubilee video, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I thought it was weird that the white dude comes out of nowhere and just admits that he was a fascist. I think he lost his job too, to be honest.
I agree. I think it's weird that he doubles down on it, even like after being like, "Oh yeah, I confirm, like I am." But at the same time, I think a lot of people are getting into this conversation of we're platforming fascists and we're platforming this, but it's hard to say because where's the line between that First Amendment right and that fascism?
And I agree with that. And the thing is, I disagree with the idea that we're platforming fascism, because if we look at like a long time ago and we look at like Buckley versus Baldwin, when Baldwin was facing someone who believed that segregation was the right thing. They showed that on TV, and we've seen that debate, and that's the hardest debate. When people talk about debates and they talk about blackness and they talk about revolution, that's the first debate that people talk about. So I think it's kind of weird that people say that, oh, that we're not weird, but like people are platforming fascism. I think that these conversations, at some extent, should be had. If that makes sense,
right? And I think even then it starts to tell a bigger story, because I think some people were even mentioning how towards the end, some of the supporters were just like, wow, this kind of gets a little bit more racist. This becomes a little bit more like, definitely more political, but just a lot more nuanced, because you have people who you don't have agreeing values with. You may have agreeing values with the Republican aspect and what comes with being Republican, but you might not have agreeing terms with everybody else who's claiming that. So I think it was an eye-opener for some people, but I think that's also why it's important to have platforms like that, so that you can see, okay, you know what? When I say I identify as such, maybe I should clarify I'm like this, but I don't support the fascist aspect.
So okay, so what about these interviews or these conversations that Jubilee has, that people are like outright saying that these things, like should someone who says that I'm like KKK member, like should we be debating these people? Should that be platformed? Because this is someone who's automatically against it. For me, honestly, I still think that I like, is it a healthy debate or not? It's another question.
Right.
Should it be platformed? I think it should be in some sense. Why? Because we have to expose. People be like, you don't have to expose. It's already there. But you know how many times we sit here and people be like, oh, people don't think that way. People don't think that way. But then when you actually see it and then you actually challenge these people's mindset, you actually open some people's headsets. I mean, obviously, I think there's some levels to it, but I don't think there's something wrong with it in some sense.
But here's what I would disagree, though. Because again, onto the like idea of whether or not it's a healthy debate. Why? Like, I think we could still expose the person without necessarily needing to debate them, because at that point, like you said, they're already far in their beliefs. Like, as a KKK member or the Grand Wizard or whatever you want to call yourself, you already have a box that you are strictly aligned in, that you're sticking with. So it's just like, how far is debating going to go? Because obviously, I'm not going to agree with what you have to say. And you're definitely not going to agree with what I have to say, no matter how great my arguments are or how great you may feel your arguments are.
So, okay. Let's look at like Charlie Kirk. So, if you guys don't know, her and I actually went to the Charlie Kirk event, and I actually debated him. And I think I whooped his ass, whatever. But here's the thing. I felt like in that moment, people understood like certain things. They understood what DEI was, and I was actually arguing with a known white supremacist. This is a person who's an idolized white supremacist who makes money at being a white supremacist. And I was able to have a conversation, and I got people to think about these ideas. They got tampons in women's bathrooms at work. They start to think about these things, and they realize that, okay, this is DI. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a majority of people there that were not listening. But the thing was that we actually have that footage that people are actually watching and peeping. Oh, shit. This actually makes sense. Now, and the thing is, I don't think the idea is, can I change these individuals' minds? No, I don't think I'm going to change that person's mind. But there's people who are in the middle that doesn't agree with anything, that can actually see both sides and be like, I see what you're going with.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, the difference between Charlie Kirk versus, like, just someone debating, like, the Grand Wizard of the KKK is the goal there with Charlie Kirk, especially for when, like, you went and with our goal all together, was not even to change Charlie Kirk's mind or to prove to him that his arguments made no sense. The idea is that he's going around to all of these college campuses and indoctrinating them with untrue facts. He's giving them these falsehoods to live off of and support why they have these racist narratives. When in reality, when you bring up the true facts and what really goes into having that idea of something and exposing it for what it really is, like you said, it makes a grander argument.
No, I actually agree with some sense. And you know what? We're gonna hold it right there. Lock in, fuck niggas. We about to drop this intro. Fuck that up. Okay, what is good, gang? I am your host, Ohaji Free.
I'm your co-host, Maya Moss.
And this is the Simple Black Theory podcast. Guys, I heard you guys said get a co-host, and guess what I got? My significant other. Yes, the love of my life, gang. And I'm happy that you're doing this. I'm so happy that you was able to sit here with me and chitty chat and make it so much easier for not just my thoughts to be out there, but for other people's thoughts and your thoughts to be out there too. So let me know, how do you feel actually being on the Simple Black Theory podcast and being a co-host?
I'm actually really excited, and I think that it's gonna kind of open up just a conversation where it's, instead of just like one person nailing something, you get to get multiple views. I think we both offer just opposing ideas and opposing views a lot to where we have to rebuild.
I agree, guys. If you don't know, she is a very opinionated woman, and that's one thing I do love about her. I'm an individual who could be very stubborn, and I always rely on the facts. And sometimes I think certain things are facts when they're not facts, and she's able to sometimes point that out, and I'll be like, oh shit, I'm wrong. Although, like, I be trying to fact check these people. You feel me? So that's one thing that I do love about you, and I'm really excited for you to be here. But we actually have a great show for you today. We're actually doing the we're trying to run segments. So this segment is called Headlines, right? The first thing we're talking about is the CDC shooting. So what do you think about that?
Honestly, for one, the whole idea and the concept of, first of all, mass shootings in America has become a consistent pattern, and it's really sad to say. But in this event, it's in response to something even greater, with it being COVID-19 and raising feelings about things that have stemmed from having a disease spread so quickly to an area and affect so many people in so many different ways, and people don't know how to react, just to be honest.
You know, can I throw my conspiracy hat on for a minute?
For sure.
Let me throw on my conspiracy hat on for a minute. Now, sorry. Since it's recording, I don't think the picture of the individual has came out since it's recording. So we don't know who this person is. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. Honestly, I don't think everything should be political. And I don't think the killing of anyone should be politicized. But I do believe that the shooter was a MAGA supporter. And the reason why is because they don't have the reason why the individual attacked the CDC. And again, he attacked the CDC, but they said that the person's name is Patrick Joseph White, right? He's a suspected shooter, but they said that he allegedly was a conspiracy theorist on the COVID-19 and thought that the COVID-19 made him depressed and suicidal. Actually, his life was taken away by him. He actually took his own life away. So I honestly think that he could have been a MAGA supporter, if not a Republican. And the reason why I say that is because majority, and I have the statistics here, 51% of Republicans are more passionate about the health risk of vaccines than the benefits of vaccines. So there's more anti-vaxxers on the Republican side than the Democrat side. So I think he was an anti-vaxxer Republican. I could be wrong though.
And I actually agree with that 100%, because referencing back to how Trump handled COVID-19 and just like all of the backlash from Republicans for not wanting to wear masks, for not wanting to wear shoes indoors, for not wanting to commit to the vaccine. It's just like, it's a constant fight between trying to protect the public health and public health sector. And even with that, I find it so ironic because apparently Robert Kennedy Jr. has come out saying that, you know, he wants for people to respect public health and, you know, we should appreciate the jobs. But how do you counter that with, you know, going against the COVID-19 health regulations.
Right, going against vaccinations in general, firing people in these health positions.
Crisis, yeah.
Like that's ridiculous. And then even when we talk about and here's my question about the CDC shooting. Do you think it's a mental health issue or do you think it's a gun issue?
Honestly, I do feel like it's both, because at the end of the day, like, we're in a situation where a lot of people are moving into seeking therapy, seeking psychiatry, and realizing that, oh, I'm now being diagnosed with something I never realized that I had. And especially, once again, with the opposition from Republicans, a lot of people don't want to come out and say, oh yeah, I need to go seek mental health therapy, psychiatry, etc. So we have people who desire to keep their Second Amendment rights, people who are passionate about their Second Amendment rights, but they're not passionate about making sure that, you know, their mental health, their internal health is just as important as their physical health.
Right. You know, and you know what? What you said makes a lot of sense because there's this saying that guns don't take the lives of people, people take the lives of people. And that's the thing. What do they use to take the lives though? Like they use these guns, they use these weapons, and then these people, they actually have some trauma that they're going through. They have a mental illness that's not being rectified, that's not being solidified, but that's not being accounted for. And so they take this anger, they take this being upset, and they put it towards people and taking their lives. But then we sit here and say that we don't have a mental health issue, that we don't have a gun issue. No, we have both. But then we have people on the other side that sit here and pretend that, oh no, it's not the weapon problem, it's the people problem. But when they say, yeah, that's true, it is the people. We should have more background checks if they're against that shit.
Right.
How does that make sense?
Regulating of any kind, there's an issue with it, but we should do something. What should we do?
So in fact, the BBC actually stated that over 488 mass shootings has happened just last year, right? This year we had 225 so far. So right now, I would say that we're having less mass shootings than we had last year, but it's still at a high rate. And they did say that July is the most active time for mass shootings. So that is a scary thing. We passed July, so quote unquote, we passed the scary mark. But the thing is, school just started.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Anything can happen. We're having more festivals, more concerts happening. And I think that's why July is more deadly, because of those festivals and stuff
Makes
like
sense.
that.
Especially with fireworks July 4th and people shooting guns
You know,
in the
that's
air.
so funny. July 4th is the deadliest days.
Oh
Exactly.
my gosh,
So yeah,
wow.
you're saying that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, but that's the thing. I feel like even the fact that this has happened, we still have like what, 5 more months to go. So it's just something to be scary to talk about.
I would also ask, like, because I don't think, especially at the time of like recording this video, that they've come out and confirmed whether or not the gunman died from a self-inflicted wound or whether or not it was from police.
It was self-inflicted.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, I know ABC was like, they didn't know, and that was last night. But I like that some other places in there, they're able to determine that it was self-inflicted.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and then they basically said that he was depressed and suicidal. So it makes sense. It was a 30-year-old who was an anti-vaxxer. And that's just a scary idea. But I also want to highlight the individual that lost their life, David Rose. He was a 33-year-old man who lost his life. He left a pregnant wife and 2 kids.
With a baby on the way.
With a baby on the way, yes.
And I think he was going to complete his year anniversary of joining the task force next month.
Damn. Listen.
Yeah.
I'm all about ACAB, but obviously a loss of life is nothing to cheer about, nothing to brag about. It's always going to be a sad thing. So obviously, we want to pay respect to those to that individual. It freaking sucks that we're having this, but like I said, 488 mass shootings last year, and we're at 255 right now. This is a terrifying moment. Okay? Okay, guys, I know that you're locked in, but if you could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're one of the people listening to this on Spotify, you're the true MVP. You can also follow us at SimpleBlackTheory.com and also follow my significant other, love you, babe, at Rolling Stoner Maya. Again, at Rolling Stoner Maya. Guys, if you have any questions, any comments, or any concerns about this, you can also hit me up at SimpleBlackTheory on Instagram and tell me anything that you want to mention here. Any questions, we can answer it here on the podcast as well. Thank you so much. back to the program. Donald Trump and Putin.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Just a little facts about that. So Trump is actually going to meet with Putin in Alaska after threatening to put sanctions on Russia. Trump says that he's thinking about swapping territories with Putin. Honestly, I think that's fucking garbage and not fair. I think that's first of all, Putin is a criminal.
Right.
He's a criminal.
But they both are.
Yeah.
They both are. It's the crazy thing. And the funniest part about it is they both have sanctions from an international criminal committee, and they're both on the run from that. I think Trump actually sanctioned them back. He wrote an executive order sanctioning them back.
Oh, do you know what country?
So it looks like it's an international crime board. Let me see.
No. I know the ICC.
Yes.
Yeah. They talking about they actually have They want Netanyahu's head. They want Putin's head. They want all them niggas' head. And you know what? And this is what I like about Zohar Mamdani. Before we get into Trump and Putin meeting, Zohar Mamdani he's running for mayor. And he actually said that he wants to jail Netanyahu and send him to the ICC, nigga. And I respect him for that, because a lot of people they're afraid to say that. They're so pro-Israel, and it's just like. Sorry. But we're talking about Putin. We're talking about Russia too, but whatever. So, yeah. So honestly, sorry, my nose is like.
No, you're fine.
Everybody clap your hands. But here's my problem with this Russia and USA having a conversation. Ukraine is not part of it.
Yes, and you know what's the craziest thing is that I think that Trump mentioned trying to get them into like a 3-way conversation, and Putin was like, no. Like, he's like not entertaining it at all. But he's like, but we're hoping to see maybe if he's open to it. He's clearly not open to it. He didn't even want them in the conversation.
Bro, a ceasefire? I'll be damned if we see a ceasefire. First of all, like you said, Putin does not want Ukraine in this conversation. Why? Because he wants the deal to be for Russia. And then the thing is, Ukraine is not going to accept it. So once Ukraine say we're not going to accept it, Russia's going to be like, you see, we tried to have a ceasefire. We tried to have a deal. They said no. So we're going to attack even harder.
That's exactly what's going to happen. But I do think it's interesting that they're choosing to meet in Alaska. So I kind of looked into it, and it looks like Russia actually sold America Alaska.
Oh my God. Every politicking, bro. Yep. Listen, Donald Trump, first of all, I don't think Donald Trump is an intelligent man. There's no way he can sit here and convince me that he is. This man has a lot of money, but the people around him, they know how to play chess. I think that's a smart move going, and I think it's a summit or something. I think something is going on there. I'm not too sure. But I think that's crazy. But you know what's crazy? Here's what I really don't like. In this deal that supposedly may happen is that Russia, there may be some swapping of land between Russia and Ukraine. Right. Russia has about 20% of Ukraine's territory. And I think Ukraine has about 4 miles of Russia's territory. What swapping is there going to be?
Right.
That means Russia gets to keep some of that territory. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
And that's the BS. And you know what it is? A lot of people want to sit here and pretend. And I'm sorry if I'm taking over the conversation.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So a lot of people want to sit here and say that, what's the word I'm looking for? That what Donald Trump is doing is terrible with Ukraine and Russia. But Donald Trump been shown that. And the reason why we can see that is because when they had the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and they asked Donald Trump, do you think Ukraine should win the war, and is it good for the United States? This man couldn't answer it. This man was two-stepping from the question, y'all.
From all of the questions, to be honest, his concepts of a plan. We can't forget his concepts of a plan.
He's still running off of that, bro.
Exactly. Like, I really don't even know what to say. But one thing I'll say that's like very interesting with the situation, especially with Putin and Trump getting together, is I ended up finding that Putin's sanctions from the ICC is due to child abduction, allegedly, from children in Ukraine.
What?
Yes, that is why they've sanctioned him.
And you know what? And this is why I hate the conversation when people said, and this is on TikTok. You go on TikTok and you be passing by, and they can sit here and talk about conquered land. You feel me? You know what I'm talking about? Like, this is conquered land. That's just the rules. This is conquered land. And it's just like, let's look at what's happening in Gaza. right? Let's look at the war between Congo and Rwanda. Let's look at Russia and Ukraine, and people are losing their lives. And you want to sit here and be like, "That's conquered land. That's the rules." Right. Guy, during that same time, they made people slaves, sex slaves. Like, are you saying that's just part of the game?
Right.
Weird ass niggas. Sorry.
What happens when it's America under turmoil? I think people are just under this idea that America is just such a great nation that we will never have to like worry about things that other countries worry about. But I feel like COVID-19, first of all, should be the biggest sign that anything really can happen, because people thought that was political warfare. People thought that there were people sent over here with the disease to kill everybody in America. That is what was being pushed around.
Like, bro. And you know the Asian hate was on a rise because of that, because of Donald Trump. Asian hate was crazy during the COVID-19 era. But so and this is what's crazy. So I found out Donald Trump is trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. You know that, right? So look, right? So here's what he's trying to do. He's trying to stop all these wars. He's trying to stop World War III. And he's trying to be tough on the United States so he can get a Nobel Peace Prize. He's been trying. How are you going to get a Nobel Peace Prize if you told Netanyahu to bulldoze Gaza? He has these fake ass peace treaties, and he thinks he's going to get a Nobel Peace Prize because he's attempting to ruin other country. Didn't you just stop funding for other countries? Right. How do you get a Nobel Peace Prize for that?
Especially for everything that he's pushed. I mean, this is someone who's ran off of platforming against minorities in every campaign and pushing racist ideologies. And that's why with the recent, like, going against immigrants has never been shocking to me, because before this, it was the Asian hate. Mm-hmm. And it was also the attack on disability, people with disabilities. And there was an attack on...
And it still is!
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying... And then he expanded that into veterans. And it's just like... How many more people need to join the group before we can all come as a collective and say, this person is probably not doing the best thing?
This man is a felon. I'd laugh if, listen, America is already twisted in the MAGA mindset. I will be damned if the instant, and you know what, it's possible. I'll be damned if they gave him a Nobel Peace Prize. If they give him a Nobel Peace Prize, anybody can get it at this point.
But you have to realize too, I almost feel like he's bullying his way into it, because then what does it become? I'll just take away the funding for you guys. But
look, so and there's other things. So what do you think about Donald Trump? Basically, all right, I'm not gonna say it was Donald Trump. Fuck it, it was Donald Trump getting Ghislaine Maxwell to go to a less secure prison, a CP3O, right? That's what we call it, a P3PO. Ghislaine Maxwell, the person who helped Epstein do the horrific things, is now going into a prison that's not as secured as the last one she was. I think she was in Florida, now she's in Texas. That's not crazy?
That is crazy. That's insane. And also, why are we pushing to protect? I mean, he was considering pardoning Diddy.
Bro.
So it's just like, he has, what did Cat Williams say? He has an unnatural alliance to losers.
Oh, he is a loser.
No,
he has he has an alliance to offenders.
Yes.
Because he also got this, and I'm trying to remember his name, this old football player, to actually be in charge of kids exercising.
Yes.
What is that? Mind you, like, and then Pete Hegseth himself, like and then he doesn't want to, and then he wants to prosecute everyone, but doesn't want to release the Epstein files. Like, bro, what are you doing right now?
It makes no sense.
Like, he's prosecuting Obama. I think he's prosecuting, I think this guy named Jack Henry. He's prosecuting the whole Obama administration. He's prosecuting everyone but opening the Epstein files, bro.
And that's what everyone wants. I mean, at the end of the day.
And he promised that, and it's his fault. Like, why are you going to promise something you can't deliver?
Right.
That's what I'm hoping he fails. But what else happened? You know, he also fired the department. He also fired a person who was part of the department that investigates airplane crashes. We've been having a ton of airplane crashes. Then he's firing people who's in charge of investigating that.
And didn't he decrease funding before all of the airplane crashes started? And then we started seeing an influx of plane crashes.
Bro. I honestly sometimes I have to ask myself, is first of all, Donald Trump said this is gonna be the golden era for the United States. Where is it?
When is it coming?
When is it coming? We're looking like the Bronze Era. It's terrible. And then one thing that I also have to point out is that, like I said, if this is the golden age, like he's suing people that doesn't have to be sued. He's sending Ghislaine Maxwell to a facility that doesn't help. It's just like almost like he's laughing in our faces, and he's like, I just don't know how to put it into words, to be honest.
Right. And then he's recently signed this executive order, basically, well, I think he's working on it, but he wants to try to get people to take their 401ks and have the ability to invest them into like real estate and to private equity. And I know, and they're saying that this is like really a risk because of liability. A lot of companies are probably not even going to want to adapt it because you might invest your money and not have anything back out of it.
Yeah, and I think currently when we even talk about bonds and shit like that, they're pretty low. Like I think like a lot of people who invested into these things are saying like what's what I'm looking for? The secure factor, not the secure factor, but it's like the protection of their assets diminishes, right? Because Donald Trump is fluctuating the market, and the reason why he's fluctuating the market is because of these tariffs. He's making because we get most of our stuff from other country, and once you're attacking the supplier and the supply and demand, that gets affected. Supply and demand gets affected. Once that gets affected, the people who pays into these bonds, who pays into these companies, are starting to be like, our money might not come as quick as we wanted because now we don't have the supplies. So now the risk is higher.
And the craziest thing about you even mentioning that is also the fact that Canada, they ended up being an effect of the things that Trump's doing over here because all of the tariffs that he's been putting on the steel industry and other industries like that.
Car is going to be expensive.
Listen, Canada had 83,000 jobs that they created. Last month, almost 50% of them they had to take away because the companies can't afford to pay people and buy the products with these high tariffs.
That's crazy.
So they have become someone who's inadvertently, like indirectly affected by the things that Trump is doing over here.
Yeah, Donald Trump is a mess, to be honest. I mean, like even Illinois, a lot of people were talking shit about Illinois and the mayor. I'm sorry, I know I'm going off topic, but this is just important stuff. Illinois, so Illinois basically is having a problem. They're like $700 billion, $700 billion in debt. And a lot of people were blaming the mayor for using the funds to help migrants. But that's pure bullshit. First of all, like that was last year. But you know what they're not going to talk about? How the governor of Illinois actually signed in a law that's going to put them $11.1 billion in the hole. But we're bitching about $250 million.
We've far exceeded that.
Bro, like, it's just crazy. Like, don't get me wrong. I feel like both sides may have problems, but I definitely, like, come on. Like there's a huge problem. Like, but actually, have you seen the Donald Trump episode on South Park?
Yes, actually.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't a fan of South Park all that much, only because, and you know this, you live with me, I'm not great with toilet jokes, and South Park they love toilet jokes. So I'm not a fan of that. But watching these last two episodes of South Park and Donald Trump is so vindicating. But Charlie Kirk is way too hype about what he's seen, bro.
Right? But especially with the Master Debater shirt, that's crazy.
Bro.
But one thing that I have to say with the whole like South Park adapting the episodes that they've had with Charlie Kirk and Trump, I love to see the media push back at everything that's been happening because I know it's almost a scary time to rebel, especially with Trump. Really, like the only thing he's standing behind is going against the people who go against him.
Fuck Trump. We rebelling right here.
Stop playing,
man. We the most leftist podcast you gonna motherfucking see. Sorry for cursing so much. My mama gonna want to be like, you're cursing too much. I'm telling you, she gonna definitely do that. But no, I definitely agree. And this is why I'm so happy that we're having this type of podcast and we're having this conversation. And I know this is our first episode and we're trying to get through. And I feel like we're doing pretty good at it.
I think so,
but this is something that we need. We just need conversations that we can have and that's fixated on pure essence, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people sit here and they don't understand that what we're going through is terrible, and the main reason why is because we've been set up to this. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense.
No, for sure. And I think that at least I hope this podcast will be a really safe space for people who just want to take a break off of the misinformation and the fear mongering and just the audacity of it all.
The caucasity. No, I won't say caucasity. I won't say caucasity. But and that's what we need to understand here. And I'm hoping that a lot of people actually get into this. We really do appreciate this. We didn't really have an outro ready, so this is our outro. Okay, that was.
You know, we should put
what?
The music from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air behind that.
And then copyright. Right there.
Oh, yeah, wait.
Copyright.
So we'll sing it. What is it?
First of all, we're gonna lose our black card so quick. Don't you ever say, what's the lyrics?
What is it?
Look
at you.
No, bro, because you can't just put niggas in a hot seat. Born and raised in the playground.
No,
That's
not the
my
theme
days.
song. I'm talking about when Carlton dances.
Oh, he's talking about, first of all, guys, and this is how a relationship is. I'm hoping you see the confusion I had with this conversation. I think, but this is how you know relationships depend on communication and trying to, weed through that, because I could think one thing and you think one thing, and we're not talking about relationships right now, guys. We're supposed to be ending it right now.
Super true.
Deuces.